Welcome back after, admittedly, a delay to another installment of Intro to Tarot. Today we will go over the second numbered card in the Major Arcana, or the third card in the Major Arcana, the High Priestess. So let's jump right in. We've already discussed the Fool and the Magician in previous videos and compared them to a seed. We've got the Fool, who kind of relates to the seed before we've even opened the package. We've gotten the seed from the store. We haven't even opened it yet. Now the Magician, we've planted it. Maybe we've even started to water it and let it soak up some nourishment. But at that point, the potential moves into the gestation now. Now we start to see some things about the seed, or, in the case of the tarot, about ourselves. We've moved into letting some of that potential unwrap itself and start to make ripples in the world. Still haven't gotten into exponential growth yet. We'll talk about that in another card, but definitely we've started to move around. We've started to wiggle and work our way toward the light. The High Priestess, and really the twos in tarot, have to do with gestation, like that watered seed, beginning to pull nutrients and grow, just not yet through the soil. We have a sense of where we need to go, but we haven't gotten there. The High Priestess really reveals herself in most depictions here as a card of study. Now we see out of 10 cards, out of 10 depictions here, all but, 3, 4 have some kind of a book. So the vast majority of them relate to study, taking in knowledge. And we need to have knowledge before we can apply it. That only makes sense. For us to grow, we need to know something. We need to know where we want to go, for instance, and how we want to get there. So in this state, while again, not reaching that exponential growth, not reaching that period where we've poked through the soil and we've begun to photosynthesize, we can absorb knowledge for future use. Now, we may not know what exactly the future will look like for the knowledge we obtain. We have a very nice book here, some books, right? We may study things in school, for instance. Great example, where we think to ourselves, where the hell will I use this in the future? And then looking back, we wish we might have paid a little more attention. I know that's happened to me, and I've had to go back and relearn things. So we do well as we find ourselves in this gestating, growing, learning, acquisition of knowledge period, to acquire it, to remember it, to respect it. That knowledge exists for a reason. It may not seem to apply right now to us individually, but the chances seem good that eventually it probably will, so pay attention. We could call this card a card about knowledge for knowledge's sake, but we do want more than that, don't we? So again, pay attention, take notes, think about it creatively. If you find yourself asking, where will I use this? Or what should I learn from this? Think creatively. Maybe the answer lies within and you already have it. Something to think on. Now, the High Priestess does not have all the answers. We have a sense of that for a couple reasons. To begin with, we have a whole lot more cards ahead than we do behind at this point. Okay? So just from a numerical standpoint, we know that she doesn't refer to all the answers, but we do know that she has some. We know that we can apply it as well in what may seem like mundane circumstances. Look at these books. Draw attention to them again. We want to do more than read, right? I can read all about anatomy, but I sure as heck wouldn't trust me in an operating room. I can read about woodworking, but have I ever used a saw? And I can read about transformation of the self. But if I don't do something with it, if I don't start working with it, then I become little more than one of those armchair occultists that we, on the left-hand path, really don't have a whole lot of time or respect for. They know stuff. Big deal. What has it done? So, again, we can begin applying the knowledge, and we may find out through our application, I've been learning it for this reason. If we don't, we could leave ourselves in the gestation period, and if a seed stays there too long, it begins to rot or dry up, or both. Rots and then dries up, but it doesn't produce anything. We could sit there waiting for this stuff that we've come across to take on meaning, while all along the secret has been we've needed to give it meaning. We've needed to find a place or make a place to use it. So definitely a cool card, definitely one that we need along the way. Not one we want to get stuck in, and we do have that as a danger too. We may not get stuck in the, all right, I've learned this phase, now what? We might get stuck in the, boy, I love to learn stuff, and I want to learn more and more and more. Nothing wrong with learning, but could we sidetrack ourselves from our greater mission? Absolutely. So we definitely need to pay attention and keep ourselves balanced. We don't want to get carried away. We have to maintain focus on our objective. And if we find that, oh shoot, I don't think I had an objective, no time like the present to start looking for one. And maybe what you've been learning up until this point will help you to figure that out. Now, I do want to draw attention to some of the imagery on a couple of these. I really do appreciate it. If we look at the Rider-Waite-Smith depiction here, we see a moon. We see probably about 1/8 of a moon there, right? So this helps to reaffirm that the High Priestess does not guarantee us all the answers. Just like 1/4 or 1/8 of a moon will not give us enough light to see the whole path. In all probability, it will give us enough light to get over the next few steps, to get to the next obstacle. So when we see this card, we need to, again, balance our expectations. We see that there, nicely illustrated with the black and white pillar. And we need to begin looking forward. See how we can use what we've got right now. See how it'll help us to get where we need to go. Perhaps we'll find some other clues along the way. And then we can go from there. Also, I may find it interesting to point out, I do like the Alejandro Jodorowsky quote-unquote restoration of the Tarot de Marseille. Now, some of the things he's added, or as he prefers, has restored, seem maybe a little dubious, a little questionable. I do find it interesting, though, and worth worth pointing out, behind the High Priestess, in his rendition, we see an egg. And that also gives a nod to this as a period of gestation. In later cards, particularly the next two, the Empress and the Emperor, we'll see a phoenix, at least in his rendition, and in some of the others we'll see the bird as well. And this does give a nice nod to it as part of the progress, as part of having to get there. So I've heard some people kind of smirk at it, joke about it. I don't think it harms anything. If anything, I do think it sort of enhances the meaning of the card. And it does remind us that at this period we do still have a delicacy about us. We need to handle ourselves with some care. We don't want to damage our progress by getting bogged down, for instance, with lots of shiny new information like we see in the Thoth Tarot, right? Finally, I do want to draw attention to one depiction that does go beyond just the acquisition of knowledge. And we find that in the Black Flame Tarot. I'll bring that up here for you guys to see a little closer. If you look to her sides, you'll see that the High Priestess has some faces or some masks that she has shed, that she has tossed to the side. As we pursue the knowledge, we will learn things about ourselves, we will learn things about our personas, and we will learn more about our core true self, like we see in the middle there. We have to get through this phase in order to advance even further. And so from that standpoint, we do have at least one angle where we can apply any of the so-called mundane knowledge that we may acquire. And that lies in the question, what does this tell me about me? What do I learn about me from this information? Maybe you'll come up with an answer very quickly, and maybe you'll need to do some digging and some creative thinking. But that question both helps to make this practical now and helps to propel us into further subsequent steps along our journey through the tarot, or as we've also heard it called, the Fool's Journey. Special mentions just to a couple. I always like to include a couple of different renditions as well. I love the Santa Muerte Tarot. Obviously drew some inspiration from the Rider-Waite-Smith, and then of course the Deviant Moon and the Nicoletta Ciccoli. Beautiful cards, beautiful job, just charming and delightful artwork. So I encourage you to take a look at some of these decks online. Get a hold of them. Start playing with them. Look at them. See what they tell you about you, and see how they can help you through your journey. For now, I'll leave it at that. I want to thank you for taking the time to watch. I hope this has given you some insights. Please remember to subscribe so you'll get updates as they occur, and make sure to follow me on the social media links that I've provided in the description for more frequent updates on all things mysterious self-transformation. Until next time, folks, have a splendid day and keep transforming.